Between the years when the oceans drank Atlantis and the gleaming cities, and the years of the rise of the sons of Ares, there was an age undreamed of, when shining kingdoms lay spread across the world like blue mantles beneath the stars. Welcome to Antiquity X. I'm your host, Dr. Judd Burton, and I'm delighted to be back on Antiquity X, where we ask strange questions about our strange past. As always, if you like the content, please click a like, subscribe, and share. And today we'll be doing a bit of a deep dive into the world of Greek mythology and its relation to the biblical lands, and a bit of a nostalgic tour down memory lane. I don't often, or at least it wasn't my intent, to review movies as such in the context of Antiquity X. But I think you'll find that this will be appropriate as it dovetails with some of my work on the Mount Hermon region. And the movie in question is the 1981 production of Clash of the Titans, which is an adaptation with a little bit of embellishment of the story of the hero Perseus. And if you're like me, you grew up during the 1980s, in which the era of sword and sorcery films like Conan the Barbarian and the Beastmaster were very formative pictures, I suppose, in the childhoods of many young men. And Clash of the Titans was part of that, but it was also an introduction into the world of Greek mythology. And so today we're going to be taking a look at what exactly does the narrative, the story of Clash of the Titans, have to do with the land of the Bible. And I think you're going to find that there are some surprising correlations between the script and the actual biblical lands. And here is Perseus, depicted by the actor Harry Hamlin, holding the Gorgon, or the head of the Gorgon, rather, Medusa, as he is about to do battle with a giant sea monster. Perseus was the son of Zeus and the mortal woman Danae, according to the myth. And he was the founder of Mycenae, which would have put him in the so-called Age of Heroes in Greek tradition. If he indeed did found Mycenae, that would have put him in the probably in the 14th century BC sometime. At any rate, he belongs to a sort of cabal of Greek heroes, including Theseus of the Minotaur fame, and later heroes like Heracles or Hercules. Interestingly enough, one of the tentacles from Medusa's head was passed on, according to the myth, to Hercules, to sort of add a tool to his heroic toolkit, as it were. But another element to the story of Perseus was the daughter of Cassiopeia, Princess Andromeda. And in the older sources, Andromeda was considered to be Ethiopic, or from the northern half of Africa somewhere. Later sources would put her either in Libya or even in the Levant, specifically in the city of Joppa, And Joppa, of course, is in the Levant. It's in Israel. The modern city of Tel Aviv is where Joppa used to be, and it was a thriving Canaanite city at one point in time. And so the writers of the screenplay seem to have gone with this later dating of Princess Andromeda, or rather later setting in the land of Israel, at that time Canaan. Now another character in this affair is Calibus. He is a bit of an embellishment, but in the story, according to the screenplay, he is the son of Thetis, and he was such a cruel fellow that he was turned into this satyr-like creature, which the playwright Ammon, portrayed by Burgess Meredith, says dwelt beyond Joppa to the east in the marshes. Now this satyr creature is interesting insofar as that you have this setting in the biblical lands, and of course in the Old Testament there's a word, the shedim, to describe these satyr creatures, as in the case of those described in Isaiah chapter 34. So here you have a dovetail with the biblical material. And again, if we're talking about where Calibos dwelt, there probably were marshes along the Jordan in the ancient times, and perhaps his haunts were as far to the northeast as the Hula Valley, which was extremely marshy. But here's a depiction of Joppa in Clash of the Titans, and you can see it's of course a port city, a maritime city, and you have lots of oriental imagery with the bullmen and the winged sphinxes as part of the depiction here. And if you look at the map, you get a sense of where Joppa is in terms of the geography of Israel. So again, a lot of this story is actually taking place right in this little rectangle that I have depicted, outlining the boundaries and the geography of the Levant. And again, I've seen this movie a number of times and didn't really put a lot of this together. Another interesting feature is that of the Stygian witches, and these are oracles essentially that Perseus was told to seek advice from. They're the same people as the Grey Sisters, or the Grae, in Greek mythology, and the aforementioned playwright Ammon says that they dwell in the mountains to the north. Now, undoubtedly, these are either the Lebanon, and probably more to the point, they're the Hermon mountain range, which is interesting in and of itself, because that area, of course, is associated with the Genesis 6 and Enoch material, in which you have the fallen angels actually teaching the occult to human women. So in many respects, it's the land of the earliest of witches. And the very name Stygian here refers to the river Styx, going into the underworld, which I'll hit on in just a moment. But Mount Hermon itself is a rather interesting correlation as a possible haunt of the Grae, because there are 3 peaks on Mount Hermon. The Arabic designation for the mountain itself actually means the gray-haired mountain. This, of course, was the location in specified in Enoch in particular, where the fallen angels came down first, where you have the first generation of giants produced by the mating between the watcher angels and their human female concubines. But it's also, in addition to the staging ground for the first giants, it's also the venue in which you have the first various kinds of monstrosities and chimera, and also the first witches. And where this further begins to dovetail with my research, of course, is with Bonius, or Paneas, Caesarea Philippi, which was described by Christ on his visit as the gates of hell. And of course, the site itself is associated with this auspicious cave, the Cave of Pan. Yet another correlation with the Seder Sherim motif in Clash of the Titans. And also an interesting correlation with the underworld. Of course, Christ is alluding to an older tradition that existed in the region that not only did the Greeks and the Romans consider this an entrance to the underworld, or Hades, but the traditions of Canaanite and Phoenician mythology also considered this to be an opening into the underworld. And so you have that motif there that dovetails nicely with these concepts about the Stygian witches, and not just the Stygian witches, but also Medusa herself. And Medusa, of course, was the Gorgon, and her temple was said to be on the edge of Hades along the river Styx. And so there's yet another correlation between the narrative script of Clash of the Titans and some of the work that I've done in the past. And again, like I say, I've seen this movie probably 10 or 15 times in my lifetime, and it's only at this last viewing that I even began to consider some of the correlations between the choices in the writing of the script and the subject matter that I deal with in my own research. But that's what happens sometimes when you revisit material, books or movies. You're able to tease out more of these correlations, more of these valuable insights, as it were. But again, try and watch this movie and remember that so much of it takes place in the Levant, in the land of the Bible. And some of the geographical locations actually probably are in the region of Mount Hermon. Whether you're talking about the marshes that Calibos dwelt in, or the Stygian witches, all associated with the fall of the Watchers and the Giants. Thank you for watching. Hope you were able to learn something valuable that you can take with you. And click a like, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you on the next episode. Godspeed.